Phil Gallagher of ThrabenU here with a rather interesting donation deck list. So let's start with a story. Maybe a year or so ago, I played a very ridiculous mono black league that I dubbed something like the greatest mono black league of all time, or something like that. And to this day, it's still one of my top performing YouTube videos of all time. And the donor messaged me and said, "Hey Phil, I got into Legacy after watching that video, and I built that deck, and I had a lot of fun playing it. This is where I'm at, like, a year later. I've added white for Stoneforge Mystic, and I'm trying Opposition Agent out now, and I figured you'd want to give this a go." And let me tell you, I saw the deck list and was like, you know, yes I do. Yes, I really do want to give this a go. So it's been a little while. I think my list had Ashiok, where this list has Opposition Agent, but otherwise a lot of the same spirit is there. I really like some of the new additions and changes to the deck. Very notably, Bloodchief's Thirst is a pretty cool pickup. So it says, destroy target creature or planeswalker with CMC 2 or less, and if this spell was kicked, instead destroy target creature or planeswalker. So this lets you get most of the creatures that you care about anyway, and endgame, when you draw this, it just gets anything instead, which is pretty cool. So this gives you answers to things that normally would be pretty difficult to answer for a mono black deck, things like Oko, Chandra, stuff of that general nature. The mana base has a couple of manlands. We have a pair of Mishra's Factories in here and Wastelands. Otherwise, it's mostly just swamps and scrublands. You don't need that many white sources to just splash one card, but you do want to be able to cast that card somewhat consistently. So we have 3 Verdant Catacombs and 4 Marsh Flats in order to fetch them up. Notably, I do think, since you do not have a basic plains in this list, I think you are supposed to split your black fetch lands more evenly across all the options rather than just play 2 of them. But that's me being super nitpicky. You know, you don't get Sorcerous Spyglass on your fetch lands very often, but it is something to throw out there. It does matter. It is relevant. As far as the sideboard goes, most of the stuff here is pretty well known and common sideboard stuff for mono black decks. I do want to highlight Necromentia, which is not particularly common. So this lets you choose a card name other than a basic land. You search your opponent's graveyard, hand, and library for any number of those cards and exile them, but that player shuffles their library and gets a 2/2 zombie for each card you took from their hand. So there are a lot of effects like this that kind of surgical extraction or extirpate cards from the opponent's deck. Necromantia is kind of unique in that it can also rip lands from the deck, which is pretty cool. No Swords to Plowshares. Yes, that is correct. So the thing about Swords to Plowshares is that you want it for matchups like Delver the most. And for matchups like Delver, you want your mana base to be solid, right? There's no basic planes in this list, so this list doesn't have the ability to just go and fetch a basic that can sit around all game and use that removal. So I can totally understand the rationale for not wanting to have removal that is reliant on your splash color when you don't have a basic for it. I think that's fine. This deck has a lot of other removal options that are pretty good. For the folks who are watching this on the YouTube end, please consider liking this video, and if you are regularly watching my content, there is that little subscribe button you can hit to make me feel good about my channel numbers growing. Otherwise, let's go ahead and jump right into round 1. Alright, so round 1, I accidentally mulliganed a hand without showing you it, but it had just a scrubland. We're mulliganing again down to 5. And now I'll be keeping this hand. 1 fetch land is going back, and I think 1 opposition agent is going back. The dream world here is our opponent just, like, doesn't fetch on turn 1, and I get to get them with opposition agent. Come on, baby. Daddy needs to recover from his mulligan to 5 by sniping a fetch land savagely. Let's go! Okay. Uh... Tabernacle main deck. We are playing against an interesting looking one. I guess I need to take a picture of this. I guess I'll just take a swamp since you have wastelands. This league is starting out well despite the mulligan to 5. No, a lot of things are not optional searches, they're forced searches. So what's more important? Taking that, like, which color is more important to take them off of here? It's pretty close. Lightning Bolt gets rid of Opposition Agent, which is kind of huge, but green... Yeah, let's make sure that this Opposition Agent stays on the table. Did I just forget? No, I wastelanded. I didn't forget to play a land. Oh, that's a good card for my opponent to pick up. I don't think they can attack with this Tarmogoyf. Yeah, so let me highlight Opposition Agent's wording on my opponent's turn. Silverfist, thank you very much for following. So here's Opposition Agent's wording. So I control opponents while they're searching their libraries, and while an opponent is searching their library, they exile each card they find. So I can play those cards for as long as they remain exiled. And I can spend mana as though they were men of any color to cast them. Ooh, another Tarmogoyf. I think I just take this. I think I'm, like, very clearly the beat down here. I'm also flooding out pretty badly. Oh yeah, no problem, Inverted Ninja. I knew the players there would enjoy this. So I have Lightning Bolt to be thinking about. Ice Cream Lesbian, I believe they played a land from hand afterwards. It was their turn too, right? They were on the play. All right, so I'll attack for 4. Yeah, this is fine to take this damage. I'll attack for 4, then attack for 4 again. Oh, Fatal Push is awesome. That's dead now. Their fetch was in play from turn 1. So their turn was Verdant Catacombs pass. Then turn 2, they used the fetch that was already in play, and then I Dark Ritual Opposition Agent, and then they made, I think it was Tropical Island as their second land drop. Okay, so our opponent's deck is a bit of a brew. Kind of like Jund, vaguely land-related stuff. So, spot removal is pretty good still. Things that can answer Oko will be pretty good. Tabernacle is notably very good against my, Bitter Blossom. So, notably, this list does not have Life from the Loams. It has a Ramunap Excavator that can get things back, but it also doesn't have a Green Sun package to tutor them out, so there's just 2 of them naturally. So that's sort of interesting. Silver Fist, I don't know that we get to cut Dark Ritual in a lot of matchups. It's just one of the few things we have that's just like really objectively powerful. Strawberry Rain, thank you very much for following. Hope your Christmas went well if that's a holiday you celebrate. So I kind of like the edicts. I kind of like needles. I kind of like the sword. I don't know that this stuff is actually impactful enough. I don't know how to sideboard for this one. I think I'm going to go Jitte out, despite the fact that it can help deal with Bob. I think on the draw, I go down some amount of discard. And then play 61 cards. Because how can that not be correct? I do celebrate Christmas. Mostly in the, like, it is a time to get together with friends and family sort of way. My opponent has mulligan to 7, and I'm going to give him the old Thoughtseize into him to Turok in all likelihood. Sorry. My opponent has mulligan to 2-5 from 7. On Christmas Eve, I just did a video chat with a handful of my friends, and we just kind of hung out and had some drinks and shot the bull for a couple hours. And then yesterday, my girlfriend and I did family chats with our respective families, and then we spent a lot of the afternoon just kind of bumming, playing video games, eating too much food, that sort of stuff. And then we watched Fargo last night, which was something that was on my to watch list and had been for a while. And my girlfriend said, it's basically a Christmas movie. It has snow in it. All right, an Elvish Reclaimer has hit play. Oh, um, that's tough. This is a really good 5-card hand. I think I'm taking the Bob here. It puts my life total under a lot of pressure, but hopefully Stoneforge helps to sort that out. Yeah, I think a large number of people in my Twitter feed would die on the hill that Die Hard is a Christmas movie. Like, people have very strong opinions about that. Oh, that Mox Diamond is actually pretty okay for me. My Hymn to Turok is now a dead card, though. All right, so as long as my opponent doesn't rip like Lightning Bolt or Abrupt Decay to take this out of play, I think I'm in a pretty darn good position. Okay, they have gotten a basic land. Ooh, can I take a turn off to do that? I probably can't. I probably need to get this Batter Skull in play, stabilize the board, and then do that. It's really awkward that I can't really do 2 of anything in this turn cycle. Oh, that's not good for me. Alright, so I can double spell this turn. And I guess the question is, like, how do I go about doing that in the way that's best for me? Long term, I really want this Dark Confidant off the board. Well, Lily costs 3 and him costs 2, and I only have 4 mana to work with. Would I be happy to trade the Batterskull Germ for one of my opponent's creatures? Probably. A little weird. The thing I really want to do is draw removal that can actually hit Bob. I'm going to crash this in. My opponent doesn't do the double block. Then I think I'm going to go ahead and do this. Oh, I took a Tarmogoyf out of their hand, which is fantastic for me. And I'll drop my own Bob. A Brushfire Elemental. Oh, okay, my opponent doesn't have another land drop, which kind of favors me. I'm not sure that my Batterskull attack is super safe anymore, but I can just re-equip it to something else, so I think I'm overall happy if the Batterskull does trade for something. Does not. Can I play 2 Bobs? I think I can play 2 Bobs. I don't think attacking my opponent's hand is all that good. I think I just want to cut them off from being able to cast their spells. Blusterstorm. That seems ambitious on the mana base. I think an opposition agent in play is worth so much more than one random card in their hand. Because I don't want them to play around it. I have already shown that trick. This is like old Aven Mind Sensor theory, but just because you can get someone doesn't mean you should get someone. There's a possibility that I'm supposed to play Pithing Needle on Elvish Reclaimer pre-combat. Brushfire Elemental is the red-green card. My opponent might be chump blocking. Well, not chump blocking. Might like trade off their Bob this turn. Because taking 4 and also having an active Bob is pretty spooky. Oh yeah, you're right. There's only so much room in the active memory while you're streaming. No Silver Fist. This was a donation deck list, so This is the first time I am trying this deck. My experience with a lot of the flip lands is that they're not quite as good to just randomly throw into places as you might think they would be. Like, I'm playing the red Shatterskull Smashing in Historic Goblins, and most of the time that card is a bad mountain. Okay, so my oh, yeah, I was about to say my opponent is giving me the choice of their best creature versus one of their primary ways out of this situation. So I probably just name Oko with this Pithing Needle. Let me go ahead and play the Pithing Needle before anything else. This probably just gets a Brushfire Elemental, but whatever. I don't want to plus because, like, they have a dead Flusterstorm in their hand. Octologist, I have tried similar things before. I have played, Field of Ruin in a mono black deck that was doing similar things. And that was okay. Not insane, but okay. But I think this is the sort of situation where you get to pick one. You just can't do it all. Like, if you want to play Ghost Quarter, the factories need to come out or something. Reaple Cheap, thank you very much for the resub. It is always appreciated. Ooh, a new Stoneforge. And an Edict. I think I just have Lethal. So, Stoneforge, search up. Yep, I do. So I'll get a new Stoneforge Mystic. This will search up Sword of Feast and Famine. Will be 2 to activate. And opponent shouldn't be able to Lightning Bolt me or anything out of this, so I think we've just got it. GG, opponent. Round 2, we're looking at an okay opening hand. I think I'm going to go ahead and keep this one. In an ideal world, we have a turn 1 play, but I think this hand is too disruptive against a combo deck to want to pitch it. And my helpful little MTG bot has last told me that my opponent played a Dark Depths deck. And if I can have a him into an Edict, that's pretty good against those sorts of decks. I could also just have a chump blocking machine. Dredge or Rainbow Depths? Probably Rainbow Depths. So this is Tom Hep's recent baby. It has been doing so well for him. Like, holy crap, he is putting up results with this list. It has some random upsides because you play the Rainbow Lands. You can't get submerged for free because you're not playing Forest. And that is big game. I think I want Bitter Blossom in play. Just ASAP. I forget exactly what Tom's streak was. It was, I think, somewhere in the mid-20s before he took a loss. Like, I think he got 4 trophies in a row, plus a little extra on the side beyond that. Like, it was an impressive run. Bye-bye, Liliana! I miss you! Bye-bye! Oh! That's unexpected. JK. Oh. Well, this match has been full of surprises. Oh, hell yeah. I think I'm just main phasing this. Like, I'm not going to get got by my opponent waiting around this. Alright, this time, bye-bye, Liliana! Hello, Liliana! Am I Tom Hep's nightmare? Is that what I'm doing? Blockers plus edicts plus search denial? Is this how you take down Negator 77 if you have a grudge match? Probably not. Tom's a monster and would win anyway. Alright, so what do we have? Edict is great. Needle is great. This sword is probably better than our other pieces of equipment. This is good enough, right? Just name Dark Depths. Yeah, that's probably good enough. Surgical technically does things. But I don't know that I actually want that. I don't think I want Sword of Fire and Ice. The other 2 pieces of equipment can put me above 20 life, which is somewhat relevant. Fatal Push is pretty eh. Bloodchief's Thirst is pretty eh. They can take out Vampire Hex Mages. I guess they also take out Reclaimers. Maybe those do stay. Most of my cards are pretty good. Some of them are slow, but like the stuff that I have here is great. Is it just the Stoneforge Mystic package that is my weakest portion of the deck? Like, I know the life gain is good and all, but everything else is just like disruption or card draw or removal. I wonder if I'm just supposed to like not bring that in, junk all of these. That puts me at 59. This doesn't actually leave me with all that many ways of winning the game. Hmm. So maybe I just keep one more threat? Let's try this and see how it feels. I feel threat light. Dark Ritual is 5 mana on turn 1, so that's Thoughtseize into Bitter Blossom into Pithing Needle and also Bloodchief's Thirst if I need to. Okay, you don't need to talk me into that. I'm in. Stay the course. Or just like Wasteland. So okay, I think I start with 1 Dark Ritual and Thoughtseize. And then I can make the decision about the second one in a second. Okay. So this is a hand where Needling Thespian Stage is crazy good. So it's a question of, like, do I take the Stifle because of my Wasteland, or do I take the Abrupt Decay? I think I take the Abrupt Decay. Alright, do I need to Needle this turn for any reason? Probably not. I can just save that Dark Ritual for if I rip something real gross in the next turn cycle. So we'll see whether or not my opponent works on getting combo pieces into play or gets Gemstone Mine into play so that Stifle is a usable magic card. So Urborg means that they have another black source no matter what, right? Because this makes everything swamps. So even if they have Dark Depths in hand, which normally doesn't produce mana, this gives them mana. Alright, so I will shut off the Thespian stage. And then we can have a staring contest that involves Wasteland for a little while. So this Gemstone Mine basically can't tap. My opponent needs to find a vampire hex mage. Needle says as. That's why it's not a triggered ability. Your triggers usually start with when or whenever. The difference being that you can't respond to something like a Pithing Needle hitting play, whereas you can respond to something like a Stoneforge Mystic getting into play. How sick would Opposition Agent be as a draw, by the way? Aww. So what's going to happen here is our opponent will wasteland us, and then I will wasteland back, and they will stifle or crop rotation in response. I don't know whether that's going to happen immediately or not. My guess is no. They need to kind of drag this one out a little bit, and our clock isn't super fast. It's just fine. See if this prompts the wasteland. Not of this world, huh? Okay, which is more valuable, the stifle or the crop rotation? The two cards are just, like, very, very similar here. Stifle can stop an activated ability of a Planeswalker, which is potentially more relevant later on, so I think I'm going to nab Stifle here. And I'm going to hold up my Wasteland and make them respect what I've got going on. I'm not going to crash in for 2, and I, again, think my Dark Ritual is worth more in hand than as 2 points of damage this turn. We're settling in for a good mid-rangey game. Chief's Thirst not looking the best here. Maybe that should have been boarded out. So I have my opponent on a 2-turn clock at this point. Oh, that is fantastic insurance. This is another reason why having the Dark Ritual is awesome. If I lose my Wasteland, I now have Dark Ritual Liliana's Triumph. Alright, opponent. You have something cool for me? Not sure what sequence of things could beat me here. It would probably have to involve a rite of consumption. I don't think Tom was playing. I don't remember his list well enough. But like making the Merit Lodge and immediately sacrificing it before I can Liliana's Triumph or something like that seems like one of the primary ways that I could eat it here. Alright, does opponent have something, or is this salt? Always a difficult portion of the match. I might need to wasteland their wasteland end of turn. Alright, so they are going for it. So whatever I wasteland is just going to get crop rotationed away. So I will send this at the Dark Depths. Gemstone Mine gets tapped. Ah, it's Abrupt Decay on the Needle instead. Okay. That's fine. And this kills Merit Lodge, which means that I can attack in for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And that plays around Not of This World, because this only stops things that, or this only gets its cost reduced if it's targeting a permanent. Oh, a Flusterstorm. Spicy. Still just have lethal though. GG, opponent. Well played. Yeah, so that was a little tighter than I expected it to be, but it looks like we're pretty well positioned against these sorts of decks. So our round 3 opening hand is pretty strong. I'll be keeping this. We have Thoughtseize off basic Swamp into Hymn to Turok, which should pick apart a good number of decks. MTG bot suggests that our opponent may be playing Doomsday. I'm still going to get the basic Swamp here. Good God. Okay. So I would like Hum de Turok to be a 2-for-1. And if my opponent Force of Negation's pitching a Sprite Dragon, that is a 2-for-1. But if my opponent dazes, they lose tempo, but it's just really a 1-for-1 at the end of the day. So it looks weird, but I'm just going to take the daze here. So daze is not the best card in this hand, just objectively speaking. That's probably either the Force of Negation or Sprite Dragon. But it's the card that allows my hand to do its thing the greatest proportion of the time. Morning, Rockanautus. Oh, what a rip. I'm still going for this him. I think it's important to get this Force of Negation out of my opponent's hand so that I can kill. Really? Okay. This is about the perfect world for me. I'm very happy with that. So the Lightning Bolt was the card that I feared the most from my opponent's hand, because this Stoneforge Mystic is how I can potentially take over this game. Well, alright. So a Wasteland on my Scrubland is pretty damning. J Reluctance, we're 2-0 currently. So deck feels good. Delver did not flip. Um, I don't think I can play a Bitter Blossom reasonably. I want to use all my mana. Their card in hand is either a creature or a land. I'm going to go ahead and fetch, and if they string a billion cantrips together next turn and kill me with double Sprite Dragons because I didn't save that one life, it happened. I'm okay with it. So I'm just going to cast a Jitte. Do I want to put this in at sorcery speed to better? No, I don't think I do. I could play around a random stifle. Oh, has my opponent conceded? Yes, my opponent has conceded. Yeah, but I think once we have like Batterskull with either Jitte or Sword of Fire and Ice on it, like we're good from there. So we're playing against Blue-Red Delver. Triumph is great. Chains is a consideration. Plague Engineer is fine. I don't think I'll be looking at any of this other stuff. Hold on, you're telling me that Jitte is good against the Delver deck? Fine and Andy, thank you very much for the continued support. I very much do appreciate it. Oh, on a year now? Well, that's impressive. I don't know that I like chains on the draw. I also don't know how many things that hurt myself I can reasonably keep. I also don't know how good Opposition Agent is in this matchup where they only have fetches. And where Lightning Bolt just cleanly answers it. I think I'm going to go down a couple of Opposition Agents. And maybe I just go, like, all the Opposition Agents down. I'm really torn on this Bitter Blossom, because it's a great threat. But I really need to pair equipment with it for it to be just insane. But I don't think Opposition Agent is all that good here. It's just too fragile. Let's try this and see how it feels. My opponent has mulliganed. But I have a hand that has no ability to interact with the board. This is a hand that I would love on the play, but I'm not sure is good enough on the draw. Like if they just go Delver into Sprite Dragon or something like that. I think this hand dies. I don't have white mana for Stoneforge Mystic. But I have a powerful first, second, and third turn. I think this one can go either way. I'm going to keep it. I have a whole bunch of removal spells to draw towards. And if my opponent doesn't have turn 1 Delver, I actually quite like this hand. What? You didn't, Daze? I will take the Dreadhorde Arcanist. I do not understand. But okay. I... What? Like... Now I just cast this Hymn to Turok, and if you daze that... Cool. I know it's out of your hand. And then I resolve something that's scarier. Yeah. And now you've also used your fetch land, so you don't have an easy, perfect brainstorm available? I'm all sorts of confused. So this puts me to 5 mana for the turn, which is Lily plus Bob. Alright, Force Pitch Ponder. Their last card is Wasteland, meaning that Bob resolves and sticks. Whatever you did, fine, Andy. Thank you for your work. Alright, now Bob can just do Bob stuff and take over this game. Oh, can I play a second Bob? Is that wise? Or is that giving my opponent a win condition? Greatness at any cost has been called by Chubby Rain. I accept. Any cost! Yeah, so the thing is, like, as soon as I get a land, I have so much life gain on reserve. I guess I just use the more expensive spell now. Interestingly, our opponent hasn't drawn a cantrip this game, so if they did keep the Dreadhorde Arcanist from the early turn, they never would have found a cantrip to cast and, like, get value off of it. 2 Bobs confirmed the way. Right. Round 4, haven't dropped a game yet. I am going to keep the hand that allows me to play Thoughtseize into Hymn to Turok on turn 1, and hope to draw a threat later. There's a big discussion to be had here of which one of these you cast first. I tend to lean towards casting the Thoughtseize first. I am most scared of Dreadhorde Arcanist resolving. So I think I'm going to go ahead and hit that. I can just Fatal Push the Delver if it's played on turn 1. JK. I hit Delver and Wasteland from that, leaving them with just a Ponder. Now, Ponder can find a new threat. So, like, we're not out of the woods. But this is a great start. So if the Ponder finds a threat, they don't have the counter magic to protect it, and Fatal Push gets to just answer that. And that was a shuffle. Hell yeah! I think I play Wasteland. I want to protect my white source. Ah! That's okay. Yeah, I mean, Lily is still a great draw. Like, I'm very happy to have that. Don't stifle me. Great. I think I'm not getting a white source now. I think it's just too important to have stable mana since I have Lily on the horizon. And if Bob resolves and sticks, that can, like, very possibly find me a new white source. Yep, there's a new white source. Do I play mana efficiently here? I can play Fatal Push, and Fatal Push is around Daze and Pierce. But again, if we're keeping double spelling in mind, I kind of just want to resolve the Liliana. Like, if I can, say, Fatal Push plus him to Turok next turn or something like that, that's just, like, so much of a better turn for me. But I can just try to wait out some of the soft permission. Yeah, maybe I'll wait out some of the soft permission. With the exception of Chains in the sideboard, most of this deck should be pretty cheap. Chains of Mephistopheles is probably a couple $100, though. And by a couple hundred, I mean, like, probably 6 or 8. Okay. So my opponent is Grixis Whale Delver. This is indeed a good reason to push. Nice. All right, I have a Planeswalker in play and a source of card advantage. I also have another removal spell queued up. This is a good place to be. Yeah, so I need to keep this in mind for later in terms of my removal, because, like, unkicked Blood Chief's Thirst isn't going to kill that, and neither is my Fatal Push at any point. So, Liliana's Triumph, again, looks great. Plague Engineer looks okay. I think last time I just boarded out my opposition agents, and I was on the fence about whether or not Chains was actually good. Chains might be a touch better than normal, because my opponent also has that Whale, which can get back some cantrips. I think I'm supposed to board out either one thing that hurts me or one discard spell here. Since my opponent has the Whales, I kind of like him to Turok as a way to snag those, because they need to sit in hand for quite a few turns. Hey, let's board down one of those. Yeah, the number of chains you play in your sideboard is largely dependent on how much you hate your savings account. On Magic Online, they're pennies though, so like it's very easy to play them. Hand is okay. I think I'm gonna keep it. It doesn't interact with the board particularly well, but it has some powerful things and gets to do a powerful thing on turn 1 around days. So I think I like it. Death's Shadow? We're playing against Death's Shadow Whale Delver? Okay. If they have Spell Pierce specifically, this turn is awkward. Days for my Dark Ritual? Okay. I'm good with that. Oh, clan, what does that mean? Am I supposed to think, ah, yes, braids. This person loves their Death Shadow. Insane. I see. Insanity is what we're going for. I don't really want to get Wastelanded with this hand. I'm going to go ahead and get a Swamp here. I think the pace of play of this game is such that if I just resolve a Stoneforge Mystic, I can eventually hard cast a Batterskull. Yep. We got 2 creatures there. Which I think means I'm happy with that exchange. My opponent concede? What's my opponent has 2,222 seconds. No, sorry, 22 minutes and 2 seconds remaining on their clock, and my clock is ticking down. That was weird. Knight's Whisper. I respect that. I respect the ever-loving hell out of that. When has Moto ever not worked? Name one time in the last 20 seconds that Moto hasn't worked. It's low-hanging fruit. Okay, yeah, so here's the punish for getting Swamp on the previous turn. JK, not really a punish anymore. Ooh. I like that. I think I like that a lot. I'm going to be taking them off of black here, because the cards like Death Shadow and the Scourge that care about life totals are black. Wouldn't have mattered either way. I think they have a whale, which is annoying because that doesn't get hit by Bloodchief's Thirst. God, Liliana, thank you for your service. That's just like the second time in a row Liliana has fucked up these whales. So good. What are they paying costs on? Oh, okay, maybe they were hovering over a card that they couldn't actually cast. Does it resolve? Oh, it resolves. That's good for the home team. Oh, that's savage. This is also a sorcery, so I can't do this in my upkeep. So this is 2 or less, so I do have to kick this in order to kill Plague Engineer, which means a daze is real bad. But they didn't have it. And then I'll get to wasteland them off of black again, get a token equipped with a sword. I could also just attack in with a Mishra's Factory equipped with a sword. Alright. This deck's good. So we're playing against Arkan in this round, who could be playing all sorts of stuff. My hand is fine if I draw a second land, and pretty questionable if I don't. I don't know whether or not I'm supposed to keep this one. My gut says mulligan this one. This is a more consistent, but less powerful hand. I am going to go ahead and keep it. So I'm not excited about this. No, opponent probably doesn't know what I'm playing. I assume Arkan is streaming as well. Yeah, Arkan is streaming as well, so. And I'm not gonna, like, go and peek on Arkan's Twitter to see what he's playing. Like, oh no. We're getting dredged on. Uh-oh. So we lost game 1. Alright, how many bridges are in there? 1 bridge? Alright, am I likely enough to win this game that I should actually let Arkin see my hand? Half of his graveyard is in his library. I don't think I win this game. Basically any of the time. So I'm going to go ahead and concede here and save the information. Alright. Surgical is great. Leyline is great. Chains? Chains is, a thing that will do really weird stuff. Don't know that I'm supposed to do that. Necromentia is probably good enough, as is Pithing Needle. Okay, what's not good? Yeah, Chains sometimes helps them and sometimes hurts them. So, like, the Fatal Pushes and Bloodchief's Thirsts are really not that good. Like, discard is awkward. Needle would name Cephalid Coliseum. God, I have so much discard. I have so much discard. Yikes. Yeah, I don't think I can beat this deck. Like, I have to Mize Graveyard Hate 2 games in a row, and it has to be good enough to win. Like, my discard is going to help them some proportion of the time. Like, I don't think I can play Liliana of the Veil in this matchup. And Hymn to Turok's pretty risky. Like, am I supposed to board in things like Plague Engineer and sort of Feast and Famine over more discard? Maybe that's the way. This is a really awkward matchup and probably one of the things that I want to see least. Alright. I still like the 1 CMC discard because that lets us take stuff that could blow up our graveyard hate. Keep. Yeah, I think for league play in particular, where there are a good number of graveyard decks in the queue, it's pretty good to just pick up random extra graveyard hate. I think I'm supposed to lead on Mishra's Factory so that I can attack for 2 if my opponent, if I don't have anything else to do. Something like a Serenity would get me real good this match. That's a reason to not do what I did. Now I can't play Discard Spell plus Wasteland. I think the Wasteland is more important. Serenity, no! Oh, just Hardcast Golgari Thug. Yeah. Yeah, I'm on board with this. So I can go Dark Ritual, Opposition Agent, and... Or actually, probably Dark Ritual, Plague Engineer, Inquisition. The mana more important than the looting effect? Might be, just for colors. I'm gonna go ahead and take the Lotus Petal. Alright, thought seizing this stuff away is only of medium value level. There's a world where I just attack for 4. But I kind of like taking that careful study. Triple looting! I just opposition agent on their turn. Fire it up. And Arkan scoops it up. Alright, this is it. Do we get to 5-0 with Deadguy Ale in 2020 versus a rather difficult matchup? Sideboarding's perfect. Let's go back in. Okay. Arkan has mulliganed. I'm going to sit here and think about this hand for about a minute. Like, this hand is sketchy. This hand is gas. I get Leyline and Needle on turn 1, and then I have a actual good turn 2 threat. But I'm going to plant some false information that this hand is maybe a little bit sketchy, and then keep this. I don't just want to, like, snap it off, and then my opponent mulligans to something that hates on Leyline. What is this? Okay, so that bounces my Leyline. I think this is probably worth enough time that I just do that. We'll rename Cephalid Coliseum. It's a little awkward since we just blew up one of those and all. But, like, it's the line. I need Arkin to whiff for another turn or two. And then I get the leyline back in. So Arkin mulligan to a hand that could beat a leyline in a long game. That was his strategy. But he hasn't yet found whatever he needs to, like, make the hand shine. I don't know if that's a dredger. I don't know if that's something to get it into the graveyard. Oh wow, answering that over the leyline, which I can hard cast in this next turn. That's some mad respect. No, Pithing Needle doesn't shut off Lotus Petal. It's not Phyrexian Revoker. There's a slight difference in their text. Is that the lag of a concession? That is the lag of a concession, and we have the 5-0 with Deadguy Ale in 2020. Ho 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 ho. That trophy feels good. This necklace felt really good today. I was really scared in that last round. We don't have all that many cards that are actually even okay against Dredge. Like, we have so much discard, and that's like the thing you want to not be doing against Dredge. So I'm very happy to take this down. I'm still very worried about something like a Snow matchup, where they have a whole bunch of card advantage and Veil of Summer. But yeah, the games were fantastic. Yeah, but very, very happy with how this deck performed today. I'm glad we put up a great run for the donor. We only dropped a single game over the course of the league, and that was the game 1 versus Dredge. All right, like, awesome. For the folks who watch this on YouTube, if you made it this far and enjoyed this, please consider liking. And if you're watching my content regularly, click the little bell that allows you to subscribe to my channel. It means a lot and helps out with my metrics.